Get ready to meet the strongest chess player in the world, and for many the strongest player in the history of the game. He's going to be taking us on an emotional trip throughout the highlights of his career, holding up for critical examination some of his most cherished memories, forged in nerve-wracking hours of mental combat behind the board. This won't be a calm, reflective look back. It'll be a collection of the most vivid moments in an undeniably dramatic life. Hopefully, by viewing these events through his own eyes, we'll come to understand who this controversial, larger-than-life man really is, what drives him, and what shaped him. Garry Kasparov was born on April 13th, 1963 in Baku, in the then Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan. And like other prodigies that seemed destined to become world champion, Kasparov did not appear to choose chess. It seems to have chosen him. The story goes that at the age of 5, he suddenly told his parents the answer to a chess problem on a table in front of him, even though he'd never yet been taught the rules of the game. At the age of 7, he was enrolled at a chess class in Baku and made quick progress. Age 9, the famed Botvinnik school sought him out, and the tiny boy began elite training. By the age of 12, he was already the junior champion of the mighty USSR, the youngest ever. It was the first step on a journey that would be characterized by almost uninterrupted success. He was to become the youngest ever champion of the Soviet Union, and then the youngest ever champion of the world. Garry Kasparov took the chess world by storm. In the course of his career, he would change the way people played and even tear down the way the game was governed. He would make enemies as easily and as gladly as he made headlines. Let's look back to where our journey starts, with Kasparov entering his teenage years. The chess landscape was utterly different in the late 1970s. Then, fashion bowed to the immaculate, safety-first style of reigning titan Anatoly Karpov. The most successful tournament player of all time, his sensible, natural style shunned risk, and opening theory often took a back seat to patient maneuvering, practical play, and a very methodical, clinical execution. Karpov was the model Soviet citizen, a winner who prized politeness, every mother-in-law's dream. On came Kasparov, raging with a frightening black leather metal-studded version of success, riding some new contraption called glasnost. He made noise, he broke things, he knocked people out of his way. Well, there can never be any doubt that no town could ever be big enough for the both of them. Kasparov's style, brash, energetic, and aggressive, set the standard for the next generation of chess players, where risk-taking in the pursuit of victory would almost become an end in itself. His capacity for hard work and the emergence of this new computer technology would accelerate the development of the game to an unprecedented degree. But in his early years, Kasparov was busy enough building success. He was a top student who spent his free time winning tournaments and setting records. Garry was young when his father died. His mother became the power center of his life, and his sense of family has always been very strong. His personal life would become a remarkable blend of close family ties and whirlwind public commitments. What kind of challenge, then, did it take to make an impression on him? Well, clearly, one needs to get inside his head to learn the story behind the scenes and behind the games. Most of the games you're going to show us, I'm familiar with. This one was completely new to me until you showed it to me shortly before.
I guess it was not included in chess-based list of my games, so that's why it's...
Well, not only chess, but anyway, any books, magazines?
Yeah, I don't think the game was shown too much, but this game from the Soviet Junior Championship, 1977, I was 7 years old, but I already was the champion. I won the tournament in 1976. But many consider that the first success was just pure luck, and they expected other players, more experienced players, and it's the championship under 18, and I was just 13 years old. The other players would be able to take revenge, and I had quite an impressive list of victories from round 4 to the end of the tournament, with 6 future GMs, including Pigusov, Lanka, Kengis, Yusupo, and Stura. And I picked up the game from Kengis from this tournament. It was round 7. And in round 6 I beat Lanka, and it was in Riga. So the 2 local players, I played them in the row. And obviously Kengis was trying to save the pride of his republic, and the Latvian chess school, and to see whether he could stop me. I already have 5.5 out of 6, and the game was very important because basically it decided the championship. I probably played at that time my best tournament. It's not only because of the result, 8 wins, 1 draw, but also I was very happy with the quality of the games. It's a very rare and nice combination when you have phenomenal result and excellent quality of the games. And I would like even to comment my first move in this game against Edwin Cengiz.
Why?
D4. For me, it was a major breakthrough. It's the second time in my life I played D4. First one was 2 rounds before the game against Pigusov in round 5. That was round 7. And in the 6th round, I won a very nice positional game against Zygmunt Lanka. And the championship was taking place in Riga. So it was a second Latvian player opposing me, and of course everybody expected him at either making draw or winning, beating the leader, and taking a chance to win the title. So Latvian chess school was quite strong. It's not only Tal, but some other young, strong players, and they had all reasons to expect that Cengiz could give me a good fight. So he did, but it ended up not as nicely as it started. So D4 was quite an unusual choice for me. That's why I hope you will not criticize me severely for the opening, because it was quite poor by any standards. Knight f6, knight f3, d6, bishop f4. But I had very limited knowledge of the openings after d4. That's why I tried to develop all the pieces and have a solid position. And I hope that later on, I will use my tactical superiority.
By 1981, Garry Kasparov had earned his spurs. Though still a tender 18 years of age, his ferocious talent demanded that he clear ever higher hurdles, and now it was time to take on the grown-ups. And for him this meant only one thing: the world elite. For a player increasingly expected to emerge not just as a world title contender, but perhaps one of the youngest ever, success had to follow success. Waiting at the end of the arduous road to the chess throne was Anatoly Karpov, not just one of the greatest champions, but one still in the prime of his career. And besides his formidable skills on the board, Karpov wielded considerable influence in the equally vital spheres of chess and Soviet politics, as we shall see. This stage of Kasparov's development would be crucial in more ways than just the pure improvement of his game. Allies would also have to be made. Kasparov's charisma on and off the board would win him vital guidance from former champions, eager to see a dynamic change at the top. But Garry would have to do the hard work himself, and behind each new dazzling success there were nervous moments. What can look like steady, heady success was often just an inch from frustration. A close look at Kasparov's career reveals a remarkable amount of sheer brinkmanship, with victory forged by a phenomenal will and the ability to rise to daunting challenges. This character trait would eventually create some of the most dramatic moments in the game, and hints of this high-tension gamesmanship can be seen even on Kasparov's early steps up the ladder to fame. Our first game comes from an obscure but memorable event, a tournament pitting special all-star Soviet teams against each other, provided the setting for the first chapter of a riveting story, Kasparov versus Karpov. 2 nervous, bitterly fought games between an optimistic young talent and a cold-blooded champion grimly looking to dent the kid while young. 2 draws. You didn't need a vivid imagination to feel a sense of history in the making, a foreshadowing of grand duels to come. Kasparov did very well in this event, and showed that it was possible to bulldoze forward even at the top level. This win over Romanishin displays Garry's remarkable aggressive energy, where his desire to attack nearly seems to defy the rules, with ever-increasing threats being conjured forth from an ever-decreasing army. So 1981 began for you with a team championship in Moscow, is that right?
Yeah, that's my full-scale introduction to adult chess. So I showed good result at Malta. I played for the Soviet national team, and it became evident that I would join the world chess elite very soon. But it was a first event, and it was a team, not championship, but it was a team, special team event called a generation event with Soviet national team, the youth team, veterans, and the second team. And I was a leader of the youth team, the student team, and we did quite well. We were second after the first team, of course, ahead of veterans and second team. And for me, it was an event of crucial importance.
You played Karpov, didn't you?
Yeah, it's the first time I played Karpov, and not only one game in the tournament, but it was a 2 games micro match.
Oh,
so that's why it was very, very important, and everybody wanted to see it. And I was quite surprised that at the end I won this tournament at the first board, scoring +2, ahead of Karpov, who scored only +1. And the game was Ramanishan that we're going to look at now. It was the first game in this tournament.
Ah.
And it's the first time I was board 1 at such an important competition, and of course I wanted to do my best. And it happened that the game was not only a very exciting game, but also I managed to win the game.
It's a very unusual game.
Yeah, it was very unusual.
Same opening as with Prodigy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the same opening, and you know, at that time it was very popular for White to play this system with knight f3 and bishop e3.
Somebody told me that it was first played in a game, Korchnoi-Miles, an exhibition game at Vienna, 79 or something.
Yeah,
people have been
78 maybe, 78 maybe.
People were saying that you never play knight f3 against the Grunfeld.
Oh.
It's a Patzer move.
Oh, yeah. For many years, for many decades, you know, knight f3 was considered to be, you know, a second-rate move because it allows bishop g4 to pin the knight, and white center is in danger. So that's why I guess white played automatically bishop c4 and knight e2 because everything else was inferior. So Korchnoi played knight f3, bishop e3, and I think won very easily the game. So and then it became popular, and I probably contributed a little bit to
for sure.
Yes, to publicize the system and to make it a dangerous weapon for white. Eventually, everybody switched to knight f3, rook b1, but that's that. Yes.
In 1982, the World Chess Federation FIDE is a strong organisation, still fully in control of the game's ultimate title. The championship cycle lasts 3 years, meaning there's plenty of time to reflect on opportunities missed if there's a slip on the way. 3 painful years of reflection if you are young and ambitious. The next stage awaiting Kasparov would be the Inter-Zonal Tournament, a gathering of qualified stars from around the world. A select few would advance to an ever longer series of knockout matches. The lone survivor of this exhausting process would earn a shot at the supreme champion, Anatoly Karpov. The final battle would be a match of unlimited length, the crown going to the first to win 6 games. Not only was the chess world a very different place in 1982, it is important to keep in mind the Iron Curtain was firmly in place. The Soviet Union was wired with paranoia, run by invisible connections, and a KGB microphone was presumed to be in every room. Cold War politics were still very much the order of the day, and 2-time title challenger Viktor Korchnoi was a defector, an enemy of the state. The championship cycle in 1982 would be the swan song of much of the old regime. The great heroes of the golden age of Soviet chess, including defector Korchnoi himself, were about to leave the stage to the 2 unquestioned titans of the game, Karpov and Kasparov. And the winds of political change were also beginning to stir, and the brash renegade Kasparov would be at the right place at the right time to capitalise on the new climate. Returning to the star of our show, Kasparov had one preliminary goal to take care of before turning his attention to the small matter of fighting for the World Championship, winning a super tournament. As part of his consigning old heroes to history, Kasparov had the matter of revenge to settle against ex-champion Tigran Petrosian. Kasparov had gone down in flames against him twice, victimised by Petrosian's patented defensive wizardry. This time, Kasparov reveals a quieter side to his maturing style and crushes the old maestro like a bug.
It was May '82. I was already Soviet champion. I had the 5th or the 6th rating in the world at that time, but I was still missing to win one big international tournament. I mean, Banja fine, but not the tournament with all top stars, strongest players, and I felt that I had to rehabilitate myself for disappointing result in Tilburg. So I had my chance in Bugojno, May '82. It was sort of a struggle to play in Bugojno because I had invitations for all 3 strong tournaments, London, Bugojno and Turin. But obviously Soviet officials didn't want me to play in any of these tournaments because Karpov said he would play in all 3. So it was quite amazing that one of the best players in the world at that time, definitely in the rating, couldn't find its place in any tournament above the 10th category. But eventually I was lucky that, I've got the permission to play one of these. It was Bugojno. And I felt double pressure to play well and to win the tournament. And I managed to do it. And among 6 wins in this tournament, there was one which was especially memorable. It's my game against Petrosian. Before this game, I was trailing -2 against Petrosian. I lost 2 games in Moscow, '81, and then in Tilburg.
As I recall, in both of those games, you had tremendous attacks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He defended himself with almost cheeky the way he defended himself.
Yeah, and I lost 2 games with Rite, within 8 months period, and obviously I felt I had to take revenge. Despite the fact I had a great respect for Petrosian, and he helped me enormously, late 70s, early 80s, because it happened that he traveled with me on all my major tournaments. So he was with me in Banja, we were together in Tilburg, then in Bugojno, later in Nikšić. So he gave me many very useful advices, alongside with Spassky, who also played in most of these tournaments. But at the end of the day, I had to score against him. And it was quite funny that when I played Petrosian, I could ask Spassky to give me advice, and vice versa. Before these games, Spassky told me, young man, remember that if you have a better position, don't rush. Just increase the pressure, slightly increase the pressure. Don't rush. And your opponent may collapse. And he tells me some stories about his match against Petrosian in '66 and '69, and he said, always put a little bit of pressure, just don't rush on Petrosian, because then he defends tremendously. So I knew it already from my experience, but it's always nice to have a good advice.
In 1983, Garry Kasparov reached the ripe old age of 20. He was firmly on the path to a battle for the World Championship. He had a steady routine of alternating between winning super tournaments and preparing to advance one step closer to what most experts saw as a preordained meeting with champion Anatoly Karpov. Listening to Kasparov, one gets a very strong feeling of his sense of history. He speaks of players and their contributions to the evolution of the game. He has a fascination with numbers and dates, as though he and his games are somehow woven into some magical historical pattern. In 1983, his appointment with the World Championship nearly came undone due to mysterious powers. seeded to face defector Viktor Korchnoi in the candidate semi-finals, negotiations between the Soviet Federation and match organisers in Pasadena broke down, and for a time it appeared that Kasparov might be forfeited. This unexpected manoeuvre seemed to pave the way for a third Karpov-Korchnoi match, as the other finalist would be a heavy underdog. Kasparov sees no arcane powers at work here. The combination of lopsided pairings and political difficulties looks suspiciously orchestrated to suit the desires of Karpov. If there were such plans, they are undone by forces eager to keep the popular Kasparov in the hunt. Korchnoi has no desire to advance the easy way, and politically acceptable organisers in London offer to stage both semi-final matches. In the meantime, Kasparov flexes his muscles by winning a super tournament in Nixich with a 2-point margin. With results like this, and sweeping attacking chess like the game you're about to see, it's easy to understand that a kind of hysteria was developing about Kasparov. To his fans, he was the uncrowned king. In fact, he remained a largely untested force at match play, particularly at the highest level. So you beat Beliavsky.
Yes.
Many people thought him the toughest opponent. You had to play Korchnoi after that, but before that you played Nixich.
Yes, but I had to play Korchnoi in July, but it's the first time I entered road chess politics and found myself in a trap because I couldn't go anywhere without approval of Soviet officials. They didn't approve match in Pasadena, so Kemperman has decided on that, so it's a classical trap, and then I had to stay away of the cycle. So, no, luckily the result was not easily accepted in my country and also in the world of chess. There was a lot of maneuvering because it was not easy for Karpov to prove and for his people that I have to be eliminated without making a single move, because Karpov wanted to play Korchnoi. And since while everything was boiling, I suddenly got an opportunity to play a super tournament in Nixich. And for me it was a crucial event because I had to send a clear message to the chess world that I'm the only opponent worthy opponent for Karpov. Except Karpov and Korchnoi, everybody played in Nixich. And I was well prepared. I was in a very upbeat mood, and I was dying to play great chess. So it was an excellent tournament, not only because of my result there, which was quite spectacular, I guess +8, 9 wins, 1 loss, again against Spassky.
Yes,
it was absolutely winning position. I mean, I could mate him, and I had 6.5 out of 7 by that time, and I was mating by force. I just missed it and lost some time. My position was already pretty bad. So among few interesting games I played there, obviously the game with Prodigy was the most spectacular one, and I guess that this game deserves to be included in any best 10 collection that I would create. What's also important that my opponent was Lajos Portish, one of the best players of that time.
And so, another match for the world title. Kasparov's readiness to ascend the chess throne had been a matter of heated debate on the eve of his first match with Karpov in 1984. Action lovers said he couldn't be stopped. Pragmatists couldn't see Karpov losing. After Garry's disastrous start, there was little doubt that a fully motivated Karpov was in fact king. After the bizarre marathon that ensued, and Karpov's eventual collapse, there were again few doubters left. Anyone who could survive what Kasparov had survived had to become world champion in a roughly even fight. Karpov's staunch supporters argued that the new and improved Kasparov had only Karpov to thank for his strength. He'd been given months of lessons. Kasparov killed this taunt dead by agreeing, and by making it equally clear that the lessons learned made him the favourite.
I think it was very logical the match was closed down because Karpov couldn't carry on. I mean, psychologically, he was not ready to fight for the title. You know, from game 6 in this match, so for 4.5 months, he had been playing the match with one thought, okay, it could be 6-0 or 6-1, so, but I have it in my pocket. So after game 48, he didn't think he had it in his pocket. So he was shattered psychologically. He lost the confidence, and he saw a very confident opponent opposite him. I learned a lot. I've been playing, much better. I didn't give him many chances. So he had only one chance for 16 games. So, and he lost 2 games in a row after being under very heavy pressure for 5 previous games. So, I guess, Karpov wanted very much the match to be close. Also, he could always use it in his favor. He was, winning 5-3, and he got, some very nice perks in exchange for this decision. So, he got a limited match, 12-12 in his advantage, and rematch. So, he traded it for very nice advantages. Very important. A draw in a match of 24 games, and a rematch.
If we're talking about the situation then, with this draw in a match of 24 games and a rematch, I mean, Fischer refused to defend the title in 1975 because he said the conditions weren't good enough. He wanted, first to win 10 games?
10, yes. 9-9 he keeps the title.
Yeah, 9-9 he keeps the title and an open match. And this was rejected because FIDE thought that those conditions were too favourable for the champion. I have been told that what was actually given to Karpov, 12-12 draw and a rematch, is mathematically more favourable than what Fischer was asking for.
No, but that's you go too far in '84. I think you should go from 75 Congress to 77 Congress in Caracas. In 77,
yes, that's right.
Yeah, in 77 Congress, Karpov was given a rematch if he loses unlimited match until 6 wins. So if you look mathematically at Karpov's advantage, that was better than what Fischer asked, because the challenger had to beat Karpov twice with minimum score 12-10.
Now, what do you think about
6-5, 6-5.
How do you think about the way Fischer was treated?
No, but it's not about Fischer now. I think we have to look at Karpov's record. From 1975 to 1997, FIDE made 6 major changes in the regulations. 6 major changes. There were 4 different presidents. Ove, Olofsson, Campomanes, Ilimzhinov. There were 6 different players involved or 5 different players involved in this mess. But there was only one beneficiary. Mm-hmm. Only one player benefited from all these changes. So, is it a pattern? One player. For 23 years, there was one beneficiary. Every change worked for one person. So, it's a fact. It's a fact that no one can deny. Whether it was Karpov-Fischer, Karpov-Korchnoi, Karpov-Kasparov. Later, when I played my match with Nigel, again was Karpov who was brought in. And then he got extra advantages by playing in the final of Groningen-Lausanne, and then as we know, the entire tournament in Vegas was postponed because Karpov was blocking this from happening. So 6 major changes, one person.
Do you think Fischer was very hard done by?
I think it's.
It was just that Karpov was well done by.
No, from my experience, it's the 9-9 was not exaggeration. Because in a match, in an unlimited match, played until one player wins 10 games, 9-9 is probably 1%. I mean, it's a highly unlikely outcome. Because at one point, one player should collapse and it will be just, it will be a home run for his opponent. So that's why to ask 9-9, that was not a really big deal. And don't forget, for instance, when Capablanca played Alekhine, it was up to 6 wins, and Capablanca kept his title in case of 5-5.
In 1972, the historic match between Boris Spassky and Robert James Fischer, the American legend, took place. As a result of that match, Robert Fischer became world chess champion. In 1975, he was scheduled to play Anatoly Karpov of the Soviet Union to defend his title. Unfortunately for the history of chess, that match never took place, and Anatoly Karpov, a few months shy of his 24th birthday, became the world chess champion in 1975. After that, Anatoly played in every tournament in sight, winning the majority of tournaments and successfully defending his title twice against Viktor Korchnoi. The chess world became impatient and hungry for a new face, a rising star, someone to capture the imagination, and such a person came along in the form of Garry Kasparov. His dynamic chess style, his vibrant personality, made him a noteworthy challenger. And on the road to the championship in 1984, to the final match, he defeated Viktor Korchnoi, Vasily Smyslov, and Alexander Belyavsky, three very strong challengers. And he earned the right to play a match with the current defending world champion, Anatoly Karpov. So Anatoly, in 1984, you had to face this rising young talent who had captured the imagination of the chess-playing public. How did you feel about your prospects going into the match?
Well, actually, every match which I start, I'm sure and confident in my strengths. And so against Kasparov, I was also quite sure. And the first match showed that I had a big advantage over young and talented star. And of course, Kasparov learned a lot from that match. And actually, I was leading with big gap. It was the longest match in chess history. And the most important things happened just in first 9 games. I took very big lead. The first victory has happened to be in game number 3. In the second game of the match, I was playing with black, and it was English opening. So c4, e5, knight c3, knight f6. If you could help me, knight f3, and knight c6, and then g3, then bishop goes to b4, bishop g2, castle, castle, e4.
Okay, now this is a very sharp advance already.
This is quite known in theory, and so black just keep this option. After knight shows his position, then black would decide. And so if knight e1, then we can wait again. But knight g5, so it forces.
Okay, already he's attacking your advanced pawn 3 times with the knight, and the bishop.
Yes.
So.
Then we cannot protect in one move. We must eliminate one piece. Bishop takes here. And so there were 2 possibilities in this position. D takes c3, which happened in most of the games. But b takes c3, this is more sharp.
And also this is very ambitious because white has a lot of pawns in the center.
Yes. So normally, according to the general rules, you better recapture with pawns to the center.
The game we're going to look at in the 1990 World Chess Championship match played in New York and Lyon between Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov was actually a draw.
It was a very sharp, exciting game, and so Kasparov sacrificed 4 pawns at one moment. On the queen side I had 4 pawns, but he had pawn advantage on the king side. And then he sacrificed exchange, and at the end I think he made for a certain moment he made only moves, and at the end he survived.
So this was game 4. Garry played white in the even number games, and it starts out as a Spanish or a Ruy Lopez. He plays bishop to b5, pressuring the knight. But of course, you've defended this position many times with black. You kick the bishop, and then you counterattack white's e4 pawn. White continues his development in castles. And now you play bishop e7.
Right. So this is classical Spanish. Rook e1, b5, bishop to b3, d6, c3, castle,
h3.
bishop b7.
Okay, bishop b7, this variation has become known as the Zaitsev variation after one of your former trainers, Igor Zaitsev.
Yes, he made a lot for the theory of this variation, and for many years it was my main weapon when I was playing with black.
Okay, so after bishop b7, Garry expands in the center with d4.
Rook e8.
The idea of the rook is that at one moment you want to relocate the bishop and you want to support this pawn and put pressure on e4.
That's right. Knight b to d2.
Bishop f8, continuing
Bishop
to
f8.
relocate your bishop.
That's right. And
A4.
a4.
The idea of this is to kind of pry away at the queen side and possibly open the a-file for exchanges at a favorable moment.
Yes, and now knight g5 is not a very pleasant threat in many variations, so that's why black has to play h6.
Okay.
Short lost on time.
This is probably the first time in a World Championship match when my opponent lost on time in a position which is, I think, was Troyish.
He's resigned. And Short has resigned. Hopeless situation. There's nothing to do. And Short has had enough.
Not another tragedy. I can't believe this.
Oh, good grief. He knows he's missed something terrible.
Yes, he's
In
played
it goes.
it.
He's done it.
Way! There we go.
Fantastic.
This is surely time to
And Kasparov's resigned. Yes! Well done, Nige.
It's a relief.
A relief? More than that, surely.
I think it's not before time.
Short is off with a draw.
Yes, off with it.
And Kasparov's taken it.
Yes, draw agreed.
Draw
Kasparov
agreed.
won the match.
That's it.
Historic moment.
Garry, I want to know how you're going to celebrate.
I don't have any special celebrations, you know. This is the 5th time I won the title, and you know, it's you get used to it.
Maybe a little cake?
This man is the greatest chess player Britain has ever had. Since he was a child, commentators have predicted that one day he would challenge for the World Championship. Now that day has arrived.
The 1995 Intel World Chess Championship took place at the top of the world, as New Yorkers like to call the observation deck of the World Trade Center. The players would contest the match in a specially constructed soundproof booth, a goldfish bowl for the world's media to gawp into. Although Garry Kasparov had been at the top of the chess world for 10 years, many people felt that his time had come. At 32, he no longer looked invincible. The years of pressure and tension were taking their toll. His challenger was Viswanathan Anand from India. At 25, Vishy looked young, fit and motivated. With his fast and fluent style, he'd cut a swathe through the world's best players to reach this final. On the other hand, Kasparov's last tough World Championship match had been 5 years ago against Karpov. His match in 1993 against Short hadn't really stretched him, so no one could predict how he was going to play here. Earlier this year, the players met in the Kremlin in the first leg of the Intel Grand Prix, where Anand slaughtered Kasparov at speed chess.
And Kasparov has resigned. Oh, what a powerful performance by Anand, totally outplaying an esteemed opponent. A very impressive victory. Kasparov must be disgusted.
But would the world's fastest player be crowned the world's best player?
He's a good player, you know, and I have to admit that this player is much more solid and more stable than Nigel Short in 1993. And I think it will be a very, very tough challenge.